Welcome back to our channel, Rare Coins Hub. In today's video, we're going to explore something really interesting and exciting. So, if you want to find out what you'll learn by staying with us till the end, make sure to watch the whole video. Stay with us, because whatever you might miss could be really important. Let's get started. Let's take a journey into the past and explore the world of the 1976 US 1-cent penny. First, let's set the stage. The year is 1976, and America is celebrating its 200th birthday. The United States, having gained its independence in 1776, is marking the bicentennial with celebrations all across the country. It's a time of national pride, and in the world of coins, the U.S. Mint is no exception. The nation's 200-year anniversary is being honored in a number of ways, including the release of a special edition of the bicentennial quarter, half-dollar, and dollar coin. But what about the penny? Surely the 1-cent piece would also get a touch of bicentennial flair, right? Well, surprisingly, no. Unlike the other denominations, the 1976 penny didn't receive any major redesign for the bicentennial celebrations. The penny of 1976 looked almost identical to the one that had been minted since 1909, a depiction of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, on the obverse, or head side, and a simple, iconic image of a wheat sheaf on the reverse, or tail side. You might be wondering, what's so special about that? Well, that's the first part of the story. The 1976 penny wasn't meant to stand out in any way, at least, not on the surface. But beneath that seemingly ordinary exterior, this coin would become one of the most intriguing in American numismatic history. To understand why, let's take a closer look at the penny's design and its historical context. The penny, first introduced in 1793, has had a number of different designs over the years. The 1976 version, however, was a continuation of a design first minted in 1909 to honor the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth. The Lincoln Memorial reverse design was introduced in 1959, and ever since, the image of Lincoln's face on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse had remained unchanged. But in 1976, the U.S. Mint was facing some significant challenges. The coin was becoming more and more costly to produce. The price of copper was rising, and this was starting to eat into the Mint's budget. So, the Mint began experimenting with new materials for coins, trying to figure out how to reduce the cost of production while maintaining the same basic design elements that made the penny instantly recognizable. This is where the 1976 penny gets interesting. The United States Mint had already begun the process of transitioning away from using 95% copper in its coins. The rising cost of copper was causing a significant strain on coin production, and the Mint was looking for alternatives. For the first time in decades, the U.S. government began considering the use of new materials, chiefly zinc. For the 1976 penny, the composition was changed in a subtle way. The standard 95% copper coin was gradually replaced by a coin made of 97.5% zinc, with only a thin copper coating on the outside. This change would become standard in American pennies from 1982 onwards. So, the 1976 penny is actually part of the early experiments that eventually led to a massive shift in U.S. coinage. This is a big deal for collectors, and it's one of the reasons why certain 1976 pennies are now worth much more than their face value, but that's not all that makes the 1976 penny special. Remember that this coin was struck during a significant period of U.S. history, the bicentennial year. Even though the penny itself didn't feature a bicentennial design, the Mint's overall interest in commemorating the 200th anniversary of American independence had an indirect effect on the coin. You see, there were rumors circulating that some 1976 pennies might have been produced with errors, rare variations that collectors would find appealing. And that's where the real treasure hunt began. What makes the 1976 penny so intriguing to collectors? Well, one of the key elements is the double die error. A double die is a type of minting mistake in which the die used to stamp the design onto the coin is misaligned during the minting process. This results in a doubling effect on the image, which can be seen as a noticeable duplication of some parts of the design. In the case of the 1976 penny, there were reports of pennies with this error, particularly on the lettering and date. One of the most famous errors from this period is the 1976 double die penny. If you've ever seen one, you'd know it's something truly remarkable. The doubling effect can be found on both the Liberty inscription and the date, 1976. Collectors refer to these coins as double die obverse pennies, and they're one of the most sought-after varieties of the 1976 cent, but not every 1976 penny has this error. Most of the coins were minted with the normal, single die. So, if you come across a 1976 penny that doesn't show any doubling, you're probably looking at a coin worth its face value, just 1 cent. But if you're lucky enough to find one with that unmistakable doubling, your penny could be worth a lot more than you think. Now, let's talk about how these rare, error coins are valued. Because the 1976 double die penny is so rare, it has become a prized possession for collectors. It's estimated that only a few thousand of these error coins were produced, though some experts believe the number could be even smaller. This makes it incredibly difficult to find one, especially in good condition. Coins that are well preserved and free from scratches or wear can fetch a much higher price. In fact, some of these 1976 double die pennies have sold for as much as $113,000 at auction. Yes, you heard that right. $113,000 for a coin that was originally worth just 1 cent. So, what makes a 1976 penny worth such a fortune? It all comes down to rarity, condition, and the historical context. These double die error coins are incredibly rare, and when you combine that rarity with the fact that the US was celebrating its bicentennial, it's easy to see why collectors have been willing to pay top dollar for them. But you might still be wondering, how do I know if I have one of these valuable pennies in my collection? Well, there are a few things to look for. The most obvious sign is the doubling of the letters and numbers on the coin. If you can see a clear, noticeable duplication of the word Liberty or the date, 1976, then you might have a valuable double die penny. Be sure to inspect the coin carefully under good lighting and use a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe if you need to get a closer look. If you think you found one, the next step is to have it authenticated. There are a number of professional coin grading services, like the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, NGC, or Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, that can verify the authenticity of your coin. Once it's been graded and authenticated, you can have a better idea of its value on the market. So, there you have it. The 1976 US 1 cent penny might seem like a small, insignificant coin at first glance, but it's actually a piece of history, both in terms of its design and its rarity. From its role in the bicentennial celebrations to the fascinating errors that make it so valuable, this humble penny has a story that's much more interesting than you might have thought. And to wrap it all up, if you happen to have a 1976 double die penny tucked away in a drawer or hidden in your coin collection, you might just be holding a coin worth a small fortune. While most 1976 pennies are still worth only a cent, the rare double die error pennies can sell for as much as $113,000. So, next time you pick up a penny, take a moment to inspect it. You never know, you might just be holding onto a piece of history that's worth far more than its face value. The top 2 penny of USA. Coins are like tiny pieces of history, tucked away in our pockets and change jars, waiting for their stories to be discovered. And sometimes, a simple coin that we might overlook turns out to be a fascinating piece of the past, and, in some cases, worth far more than we could ever imagine. Today, we're going to dive into the story of one such coin, the 1977 US 1 cent penny. This penny, which might seem like just another ordinary coin, carries with it a rich history, interesting design features, and a surprising appeal to collectors. It's hard to believe, but this penny, which was minted nearly half a century ago, is now worth an impressive $108,000. Yes, you heard that correctly, if you know what to look for. But what makes the 1977 penny so special? And why has this simple 1-cent piece captured the attention of coin collectors and history buffs alike? Let's take a journey back in time, and unravel the fascinating story of the 1977 1-cent penny. The year is 1977. The world is going through significant changes, from political shifts to cultural revolutions, and of course, technological advancements. In the United States, the post-Vietnam era is marked by a sense of recovery and renewal. The economy is stabilizing, and President Jimmy Carter has taken office, promising a government of transparency and reform. While all of this was happening on the world stage, a much quieter and seemingly insignificant event took place, an event that would eventually make waves in the numismatic world, the minting of the 1977 U.S. penny. At first glance, the 1977 penny might not seem like anything to write home about. Like most pennies from the mid-1970s, it carries the same design that had been in circulation for nearly 70 years. On the obverse, or head side, you'll find the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, designed by sculptor Victor David Brenner. Lincoln has been featured on the U.S. penny since 1909, making him one of the most enduring symbols in American coinage. On the reverse, or tail side, we see the iconic image of the Lincoln Memorial, which had been the standard design since 1959. This was part of an effort to honor the memory of Lincoln and his contributions to the country, and to provide an image that would resonate with Americans for decades to come. But this design, which had become so familiar to the American public, was only part of what made the 1977 penny significant. To truly understand its value, we need to look at the historical and economic context of its time. Throughout the 1960s and 1970s, there were growing concerns about the rising cost of producing coins, especially the penny. The metal used in minting pennies, copper, was becoming more expensive. The U.S. Mint was facing the challenge of how to keep producing coins without breaking the budget. By the mid-1970s, the rising cost of copper was forcing the mint to consider alternatives, and a shift in the composition of the penny was already on the horizon. In fact, it wasn't long after the 1977 penny was minted that the U.S. Mint began experimenting with different metal alloys. By 1982, the U.S. penny was no longer made of 95% copper, but instead was primarily made of zinc, with a thin copper coating. This change was driven by the soaring costs of copper, and while it's now a standard part of the penny's history, the 1977 penny was one of the last to be made predominantly of copper. While the composition of the 1977 penny is interesting, it's not the only factor that contributes to its rarity and value. You see, there's something special about certain 1977 pennies, and that special quality revolves around a specific error in the minting process, the famous double die error. To understand this error, we need to dive into the mechanics of coin minting. The minting process involves striking a blank metal planchet with a die that contains the design for the coin. When the die is misaligned or the pressure is uneven during the striking process, it can lead to a doubling effect, where parts of the design appear duplicated, as though the image was struck twice. In the case of the 1977 penny, some of the coins produced during that year featured this error, particularly on the obverse. The doubling can be seen most clearly on the word Liberty and the date, 1977. In some cases, the doubling is so pronounced that it's easy to spot with the naked eye, making these coins incredibly valuable to collectors. This error, known as the double die obverse, isn't something that happens often. In fact, it's a relatively rare mistake in the world of coinage. But when it does occur, it creates a coin that is highly desirable to collectors, especially those who specialize in error coins. The 1977 double die penny has become one of the most sought-after error coins in American numismatic history. The rarity of the 1977 double die penny is part of what makes it so valuable. But there's another reason why this coin commands such high prices in today's market: its condition. In the world of coin collecting, the condition of a coin plays a huge role in determining its value. Coins that are well preserved, free from scratches, wear, or discoloration, are far more valuable than those that are heavily circulated. The 1977 double-die penny, particularly in higher grades, can fetch tens of thousands of dollars, with some specimens selling for as much as $108,000. But how do you know if you have a 1977 double-die penny in your collection? It all comes down to careful inspection. The key areas to check are the Liberty inscription and the date, 1977. If you see any kind of noticeable doubling, especially on these two areas, you may have one of the prized double-die pennies. A magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe is essential to get a closer look at the details. It's important to note that not all 1977 pennies are double-die errors. In fact, most of them are completely ordinary and worth just 1 cent. The double-die penny is a rarity, and finding one can feel like discovering buried treasure. If you do happen to find one, it's wise to have it authenticated by a professional grading service, like the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, NGC, or the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS. These organizations specialize in verifying and grading coins, and their expert assessment can help determine the coin's authenticity and value. Once authenticated and graded, the 1977 double-die penny can fetch a significant price. Depending on the grade and condition of the coin, it could sell for anywhere between $500 to $108,000 at auction. The higher the grade, meaning the less wear and tear on the coin, the higher the price. Coins in mint or near mint condition, with sharp, clear doubling and no signs of corrosion or damage, are the most valuable. Now, let's take a moment to appreciate why the 1977 penny holds such a special place in the hearts of collectors. Coins, especially those with errors, represent more than just currency, they are tangible pieces of history. The 1977 penny isn't just a relic of the 1970s, it's a symbol of the U.S. Mint's efforts to produce quality coinage in a time of economic uncertainty. It's a testament to the craftsmanship of the mint, as well as the mistakes that can sometimes lead to unexpected treasures. And finally, let's talk about what makes the 1977 penny truly worth its weight in gold, or more accurately, its value in the rare coin market. A single 1977 double-die penny, if in excellent condition, can be worth up to $108,000. That's right, $108,000 for a penny that once circulated as just another piece of pocket change. So, the next time you reach into your pocket or check your spare change jar, take a moment to inspect your pennies. They may look like ordinary coins, but among them could be a small, shiny gem, one that could change your financial future. Keep an eye out for those double-die errors, and who knows? You might just uncover a coin worth far more than you ever expected. The year is 2000. It's a time of significant change in the world and in the United States. The dot-com boom is in full swing, the world is holding its breath as the millennium turns, and, of course, there's one thing that remains constant: the 1-cent penny. In fact, it might surprise you to learn that the penny, that small, seemingly insignificant piece of copper and zinc, was at the center of one of the most interesting stories in U.S. coinage history at the dawn of the 21st century. We tend to overlook pennies in our everyday lives. They're the coins that pile up in jars, clink in our pockets, or get tossed aside without a second thought. But believe it or not, the 2000 penny is far from ordinary. It holds a fascinating story of design, history, and unexpected value, especially for a coin that many of us just toss in the jar with little regard for its significance. So, let's rewind and set the stage. The year is 2000, and the United States Mint is facing both a turning point and a challenge. It's a year of reflection, as America celebrates the turn of the millennium, a symbolic moment in time that brings with it both optimism for the future and nostalgia for the past. This year marks a pivotal point in American coinage history, not because of a grand redesign like some of the more famous commemorative coins, but because of something much subtler: a series of small design changes that would go largely unnoticed by the average person, yet would be of great interest to collectors. But let's start with the basics. What exactly does the 2000 penny look like? The design of the 2000 US 1-cent penny is rooted in a legacy that goes back to 1909, when President Theodore Roosevelt and the U.S. Mint decided to place a portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the penny to honor his legacy. Lincoln, who had been assassinated almost 50 years earlier, became the face of the penny, a lasting tribute to his leadership and vision for the country. Since 1909, the penny has featured his likeness, making it one of the most iconic and enduring symbols in American coinage. The 2000 penny, like many pennies before it, features a portrait of Lincoln on the obverse, or head side, by artist Victor David Brenner. The reverse, or tail side, still bears the image of the Lincoln Memorial, which was introduced in 1959 to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. This reverse design would remain in place for the entire second half of the 20th century and into the 21st century. In many ways, the 2000 penny is just like the millions of other pennies that have been minted over the years. It's small, it's copper-colored, and it features two timeless designs. So why is the 2000 penny so significant? Well, it has a lot to do with the timing of its minting and some subtle yet important changes that make it unique in the world of numismatics. At the turn of the millennium, the U.S. Mint was working through some ongoing challenges related to the cost of producing pennies. The price of copper, a major component of the penny's composition, was rising. In fact, by the year 2000, the U.S. Mint was already under pressure to re-evaluate the composition of its coins, especially the penny. While the penny had been traditionally made of 95% copper, the rising cost of copper was beginning to outstrip the penny's face value, and that was making the coin increasingly expensive to produce. In the late 1990s, the Mint began experimenting with alternative metals and alloy compositions for the penny. By 2000, it had already transitioned to a new composition for the penny, a core made primarily of zinc, coated with a thin layer of copper. This was a significant change, as it marked the beginning of a gradual shift away from copper as the primary material for U.S. coinage. The penny of 2000, like its predecessors, was made up of 97.5% zinc, with only a 2.5% copper plating on the surface. This made the penny lighter, cheaper to produce, and more in line with the rising cost of metals at the time. This change in composition was largely unnoticed by most people at the time, and the coins continued to look and feel almost exactly like the older copper-based pennies. However, as it turned out, the new zinc-copper alloy would become a hallmark of future pennies, and its first widespread appearance in circulation came with the 2000 penny. Now, while the composition of the 2000 penny may have been altered, that's not the only reason collectors began to take notice. The 2000 penny also marked the start of some very subtle changes to the coin's overall design, particularly in the form of minor errors that were being produced in the minting process. As with any mass production process, errors can occur, and the 2000 penny would become infamous for a certain error that would later be worth tens of thousands of dollars. The error in question is known as the close M variety, and it's one of the most famous and valuable varieties of the 2000 penny. You see, in 2000, the U.S. Mint produced pennies with both a wide M and close M variety, referring to the spacing between the letters A and M in the word America on the reverse side of the coin. The wide M variety was the regular, intended design, but in a limited number of coins, the letters A and M were struck too closely together, creating the close M variety. This close M error is incredibly rare, and only a small number of these coins were produced. However, these coins became highly sought after by collectors, particularly as more and more of them were discovered. It wasn't long before the value of a 2000 close M penny skyrocketed, with specimens in excellent condition fetching up to $93,000 at auction. Yes, a penny that was originally worth just 1 cent now holds a value that could make you think twice about tossing it into your change jar. But why does this error create such an appeal among collectors? It all comes down to rarity, demand, and the sheer uniqueness of the error. The close M penny is rare because only a few hundred of them were minted, and most of them were either damaged in circulation or failed to meet the mint's quality standards. This makes the surviving, close M pennies incredibly valuable, especially those in mint or near mint condition. Coins with sharp, clean details, no wear, and well-defined features are considered the most valuable. The process of identifying and distinguishing a close M penny from a regular, wide M penny is a task that requires a sharp eye and a keen understanding of the coin's design. The key area to check is the spacing between the A and M in America on the reverse side of the penny. If the two letters are almost touching or extremely close together, you may have a close M penny. It's essential to examine the coin closely under good lighting and, if needed, with a magnifying glass. Even a slight variation in the spacing can make a big difference in value. Once you've found a potential close M penny, the next step is to have it graded by a professional numismatic service, such as the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation (NGC) or the Professional Coin Grading Service (PCGS). These services will assess the condition of the coin and provide a grade, which will further influence its market value. Coins that are graded in higher conditions, like MS-65 or higher, will fetch much higher prices than those with visible wear or damage, but the value of the 2000 close M penny doesn't just stop at rarity and condition. The overall fascination with error coins plays a big role in driving demand and price. Collectors are drawn to errors because they are unique, they tell a story of imperfection, and they serve as a reminder that even the most meticulously crafted coins can sometimes slip through the cracks. The 2000 close M penny is just one example of how a small error can turn an otherwise ordinary coin into a highly valuable treasure. The same thing can happen with many other types of error coins, but the 2000 penny remains one of the most famous and highly sought after among collectors. If you happen to stumble upon one of these coins, whether it's in your pocket change or tucked away in a coin jar, you might be holding on to a rare piece of US history. So, the next time you look at a penny, especially one from 2000, take a moment to inspect it carefully. You never know, that small, seemingly insignificant coin could be worth a small fortune. In the case of the 2000 close M penny, it could be worth as much as $93,000. The top 4. Have you ever thought about the coins you carry in your pocket, or the ones you find scattered in jars and drawers at home? Most of the time, we overlook the small change, treating it as just, well, change. But sometimes, hidden in that pile of pennies, nickels, and dimes, there's something far more valuable than we could ever expect. That's right, I'm talking about the 2007 US 1-cent penny. A coin that might seem ordinary at first glance but actually holds an extraordinary place in the world of numismatics. The 2007 penny may not be the first coin that comes to mind when you think about rare and valuable treasures. After all, it's just a penny, right? But this coin tells a much bigger story than you might realize, a story filled with changes in design, production shifts, and unexpected errors that would eventually lead to a surge in demand among collectors. In fact, some 2007 pennies are now worth as much as $76,000. Let's rewind a little bit. The year is 2007. The world is living in the digital age, with social media starting to take off and the iPhone making its debut later that year. But while people were focused on the technological revolution, the US Mint was hard at work producing millions of coins. Among those millions of coins was the penny, the humble 1-cent piece that, despite its small size and low value, holds a significant place in US history. For much of the 20th century, the penny had remained the same. The design, featuring Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, the head side, and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, the tail side, was a constant in American coinage. These images were first introduced in 1909 and had been used on the penny ever since. However, in 2007, the US Mint decided it was time to make a change. The first big change came in the form of the reverse design of the penny. For the first time in nearly 50 years, the US Mint introduced a new design for the back of the penny, replacing the Lincoln Memorial with a new image meant to honor the 16th president's legacy in a different way. In fact, 2007 marked the beginning of the Presidential Bicentennial Series, a set of new reverse designs that would feature different aspects of Abraham Lincoln's life. In 2007, the first of these new designs appeared on the penny, the log cabin design. This design was chosen to reflect Lincoln's humble beginnings in a log cabin in Kentucky, where he was born in 1809. The image on the reverse side of the penny depicted a small log cabin, symbolic of Lincoln's early life in the frontier. It was a moving tribute to his modest origins and a reminder of how far he came in his journey to become one of the most influential presidents in U.S. history. But this wasn't the only change in the world of pennies in 2007. While the design was new, the mint was also making another significant shift in how pennies were produced. For decades, the penny had been made primarily from copper, a material that had grown increasingly expensive. The rising cost of copper made it more and more expensive to produce pennies, which were originally intended to cost only a small fraction of their face value. By 2007, the mint had already begun experimenting with new materials for pennies, and in fact, the composition of the 2007 penny was made up of 97.5% zinc, with just a thin copper coating on the outside. This was a significant shift from the older copper-based pennies, and it was part of the mint's ongoing effort to keep production costs under control while still producing a coin that would maintain its traditional appearance. This change in composition, however, would later contribute to one of the most significant events in the world of coin collecting, the discovery of certain rare error coins. But before we get into that, let's take a closer look at the 2007 penny and what makes it so intriguing. The 2007 penny is a piece of history, representing the transition from the old designs and materials to new, more modern approaches to coinage. It carries the image of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, just as it has for over a century. The reverse features the log cabin design, which was a new chapter in the story of the penny. Despite these changes, the coin still remains instantly recognizable, and it's a reminder of how coins evolve over time. However, the value of the 2007 penny isn't just tied to its design or its symbolic significance. While most pennies from 2007 are worth, well, 1 cent, there are certain rarities that have captured the attention of collectors. These rarities stem from errors that occurred during the minting process, a common phenomenon in the world of numismatics. As with any mass production process, errors can happen. And in 2007, some of these errors were more noticeable than others. One of the most famous errors associated with the 2007 penny is the 2007 double die obverse. This error occurs when the die used to strike the design on the coin is misaligned, causing a doubling effect on certain parts of the design. On a 2007 double die obverse penny, the word Liberty and the date 2007 are often the most noticeable areas where the doubling can be seen. The letters appear to be struck twice, creating a ghostly, double image. This error is rare, but when it does occur, it creates a unique and highly valuable coin. The 2007 double die obverse penny is especially desirable to collectors because error coins like this one are highly sought after. The rarity of the error and the appeal of owning a unique, misstruck coin make the 2007 double die obverse an attractive item for serious numismatists. In some cases, a well-preserved 2007 double die penny can be worth as much as $76,000. But how can you tell if you have a 2007 double die penny? It's all about the details. To spot the error, closely examine the Liberty inscription and the date 2007 on the obverse of the penny. If you see any kind of doubling, especially in these two areas, you may have found a rare 2007 double die penny. A magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe is your best tool for inspecting the coin closely. Even slight doubling can make a big difference in the value of the coin. If you think you have a valuable 2007 double die penny, it's a good idea to have it authenticated and graded by a professional coin grading service. Companies like the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, or Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, NGC, specialize in verifying and grading coins, and their expert assessment can help determine the authenticity and grade of your coin. The grade of your coin plays a crucial role in determining its value. Coins that are in mint or near mint condition, with little to no wear or damage, are worth significantly more than those that have been circulated or damaged. A 2007 double die penny in pristine condition, with sharp, clear doubling and no visible wear, can fetch upwards of $76,000 at auction. This value is a reflection of not only the rarity of the error but also the growing interest in error coins among collectors. Collectors love a good story, and the story of a misstruck penny, one that was meant to be just like all the others, yet ended up being a unique piece of history, adds to the allure. The 2007 penny is a reminder that even the smallest and most unassuming coins can have hidden value. While most of the 2007 pennies in circulation are worth only a cent, a select few are worth far more, perhaps more than you ever imagined. Whether you're an avid collector or just someone who enjoys the occasional coin hunt, the 2007 penny offers a valuable lesson. Always take a closer look at the change in your pocket. You never know when you might be holding onto a coin that could be worth thousands of dollars, and that brings us to the grand finale. The value of a 2007 double die obverse penny, in pristine condition, can be as high as $76,000. Imagine that, a penny, once worth just 1 cent, could turn into a small fortune. So, the next time you find yourself sorting through coins, be sure to keep an eye out for this elusive error. Who knows? You might just find the rare gem you've been looking for. The year 2008. The world was in the midst of a financial storm, global markets were in turmoil, the United States was facing a housing crisis, and the economy seemed to be on the brink of collapse. Yet, amidst this backdrop of uncertainty and change, one seemingly insignificant object continued to circulate in pockets, cash registers, and tip jars across the nation, the U.S. 1-cent penny. But this penny, the 2008 version, was different from all the others. For one, it was the last of a transitional series of pennies designed to commemorate the 200th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. But there's more to this penny than meets the eye. You see, while most of us think of pennies as nothing more than small, often overlooked change, there are rare and valuable versions of the 2008 penny that are worth far more than their face value. In fact, some of these pennies are worth as much as $70,000. Let's rewind a bit and set the stage. The U.S. Mint had a long tradition of honoring the life and legacy of Abraham Lincoln on the penny. Since 1909, Lincoln's portrait had appeared on the obverse of the penny. The reverse of the penny, however, had undergone a significant change in 2009, in honor of the 200th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's focus on the penny from 2008. The 2008 penny, like its predecessors, carried the iconic image of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse. This design, created by sculptor Victor David Brenner, had been in use for nearly a century. Lincoln's profile, with his distinct facial features and top hat, was and still is an enduring symbol of leadership, wisdom, and the American ideal. But, as with all things, change was on the horizon. In 2008, the U.S. Mint issued two distinct designs for the reverse of the penny as part of a special series to mark the bicentennial of Lincoln's birth. These designs would be unveiled gradually over the next several years, starting in 2009. However, 2008 was the year that marked the final year of the classic reverse, which featured the image of the Lincoln Memorial, introduced in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. The Lincoln Memorial reverse design had been a staple on the penny for decades. The memorial, with its grand columns and the statue of Lincoln seated in the center, was a fitting tribute to one of the country's greatest presidents. By the time 2008 came around, this reverse had become deeply ingrained in American culture, just like Lincoln's portrait on the front. But 2008 wasn't just any other year. The 2008 penny was the last year this reverse design would be in use, making it the final coin in a nearly 50-year era of pennies featuring the Lincoln Memorial. The fact that this particular coin would be the last of its kind added an extra layer of significance for collectors. It wasn't just a penny, it was a piece of numismatic history. The 2008 penny is composed primarily of copper-plated zinc, which was a shift away from the traditional copper composition used for centuries. By this point, the U.S. Mint had already been experimenting with different metal alloys due to the rising cost of copper, and this new penny composition would continue through subsequent years. The 2008 penny, though still instantly recognizable, had a slightly different feel than the older copper-based pennies. It was lighter and, some might say, a little more fragile than its copper predecessors, but it still carried the same iconic design elements. Now, at this point, you might be thinking, so what's so special about this coin? Why is it worth so much? Well, here's where things get interesting. While most 2008 pennies are worth exactly 1 cent, there's a specific variety of the coin that has caught the attention of collectors, and it's this very variety that can make a 2008 penny worth a small fortune. In the world of coin collecting, a coin's value is often driven by its rarity, condition, and the presence of any errors. In the case of the 2008 penny, one of the rarest and most valuable variations is known as the 2008 Lincoln Memorial Reverse Double Die Obverse penny. This error occurred when the die used to strike the coin was misaligned, causing the obverse details, especially the lettering and Lincoln's portrait, to appear doubled. This doubling creates a distinctive visual effect that's noticeable to anyone familiar with the coin. For collectors, this doubling is a jackpot. It's the kind of error that makes a coin truly unique. Because of the way it was struck, a 2008 double die obverse penny stands out, and it's much rarer than the standard issue. Finding one of these in circulation is like finding a needle in a haystack. The coin is so rare that its value can reach as high as $70,000, depending on its condition. Now, you might be wondering how you can tell if you have a 2008 double die obverse penny in your collection or spare change. Well, here's the key: you'll want to closely examine the inscription around Lincoln's portrait. Look for doubling on the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust," as well as the date 2008. The most noticeable doubling will be in these areas, and if you can spot it clearly, you might just have a rare and valuable error on your hands. For example, in some cases, the word "Liberty" will appear as though it has been struck twice, creating a ghost effect with the letters slightly shifted from one another. Similarly, the date 2008 may appear with the digits being duplicated. It's these doubled features that make the coin so desirable to collectors. However, it's important to note that not every 2008 penny with slight doubling is necessarily worth thousands of dollars. The value of a double die obverse penny is largely determined by its overall quality. Coins that are in pristine, uncirculated condition are worth much more than those that have been worn down by years of handling and circulation. Coins that have been graded as high as MS 65, Mint State 65, can command higher prices, sometimes reaching up to $70,000. So, if you happen to come across a 2008 penny with noticeable doubling, make sure to inspect it carefully. The next step would be to have it authenticated and graded by a professional coin grading service, like the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, or Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, NGC. These organizations can verify the coin's authenticity and provide it with a grade, which will ultimately affect its market value. If the coin is determined to be a true 2008 double die obverse penny in excellent condition, you could be holding on to a valuable piece of American history. It's not just a rare error coin, it's a part of a series of limited edition pennies that mark the end of the Lincoln Memorial design and the beginning of a new era of penny designs. This coin is more than just a valuable collector's item, it's a symbol of the transition in U.S. coinage, a moment in time when the U.S. Mint was evolving, and a rare mistake that collectors still hunt for today. For those who managed to find one of these 2008 double die obverse pennies, the value isn't just in the coin itself but in the story it tells, a story of a small mistake that turned into something extraordinary. So, how do you know if you've got a penny worth $70,000? The key is to examine the details. Look for the doubled letters and digits on the obverse. check the coin's condition, and get it graded by a reputable service. If you have a rare example in mint condition, you could be holding on to an incredibly valuable coin. The 2008 penny may seem like just another coin to most people, but for collectors, it's a treasure trove of potential value. And with the market for rare and unique error coins growing, the 2008 double-die obverse penny could be the key to unlocking a small fortune. In the world of coin collecting, sometimes the most ordinary coins hide the most extraordinary stories. And as we've seen with the 2008 penny, the value isn't always in what the coin was meant to be, it's in what it became by chance. So, next time you come across a penny, especially one from 2008, don't just toss it aside. Take a closer look. You never know, it could be worth thousands of dollars, or even more.